A very warm tashdile to all the viewers of Tibettv. I'm Tilechuki and you're watching Tibet This Week, a weekly feature in English about this week's news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Central Tibetan Administration. Let's start with the news headlines first. We have a chance to make this a more peaceful era. His Holiness the Dalai Lama at Reataku University, Japan. CTA President drums up support for Tibet in the US capital. Resolution honoring the life, accomplishments and legacy of late Lodi Gyaltsen Gyari introduced in the US Senate. President Sangay completes engagements in Canada. Unchecked construction could have triggered recent Jomda landslide flooding in Tibet, Lodi Gyaltsen Tibet Policy Institute. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, currently on his 10-day tour in Japan, was presented with an honorary doctorate of literature by the Reataku University in Kashiwa, Japan on 19th of November this year for his work to promote warm-heartedness and inner values as the source of human happiness. Donning the university gown and the academic cap, His Holiness said that the modern education is oriented towards material goals with little scope for inner values. When modern education began to emerge about 200 years ago, religious institutions ensured a sense of inner values. But as the influence of those institutions has declined, we need our education establishments to take responsibility for fostering values like compassion and concern for others. Highlighting the role of youth in bringing about peace, His Holiness said, "You young people here belong to the 21st century. I and many of your professors belong to the 20th century and our time has gone. The past is past and can't be changed, but the shape of the future is in your hands. You who belong to the present century can create a world that will be happier and more peaceful. We have a chance to make this a more peaceful era. When conflicts arise, they should be settled through dialogue, not by the use of force. It is my hope that Japan will lead a movement for the elimination of nuclear weapons with the ultimate aim of a demilitarized world." Earlier to this, His Holiness concluded a 2-day Buddhist teachings held on 14th and 15th of November at the National Convention Hall of Yokohama. His Holiness gave an explanatory transmission of Je Tsongkhapa Chembos in praise of the Buddha for teaching dependent arising, which was followed with the preparatory rituals for Avalokiteshvara initiation. On 16th of November, His Holiness the Dalai Lama was joined by a group of scientists to discuss scopes for greater scientific intervention in tackling human emotions. 3 prominent scientists, namely neuroscientist Iri Atsushi, physicist Shu, Professor Sasiko Yoshikawa of Kyoto University, joined the panel with His Holiness. Stating the purpose of this meeting, His Holiness said, "Scientists use their brilliant intelligence to concentrate on the physical matter. Now, science should include investigation about mind and consciousness, so that the field of scientific research extends not only in the material world, but the internal mind. This is the purpose of our meeting." His Holiness further added that through scientific research, we can convince people that constant anger and fear affect our immune system. Of course, different religious traditions have some opportunity to teach, but if a religious person says, "Don't resort to anger or force," the younger generation may not be convinced. But if a scientist point out the benefits of positive emotions and the harmful effect of negative emotions, that will be more effective and successfully convince people. On 17th of November, His Holiness delivered a public talk titled "One, We Are One Family," organized by Sherab Ketseling Institute and supported by the Tibet House Japan, the liaison office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Mongolian and Tibetan Cultural Exchange Support. Addressing the public, His Holiness remarked, "The concept of sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings is immensely beneficial to open your hearts. As a result of too much self-centered attitude, one experiences more anxiety and stress and eventually anger. Once we consider entire human beings are brothers and sisters, we can easily communicate and smile." On 18th of November, His Holiness the Dalai Lama inaugurated a new Buddhist center, the Sherab Kezeling Institute in Chiba, Japan. The inaugural ceremony was held in a Mongolian tent, a kur. Remarking on this, His Holiness said, "I've never given a teaching in a felt tent like this before, but I have a feeling that when the third Dalai Lama went to Mongolia to spread the teachings of the Buddha and Dzongpa Pachembo, he would have done that, and much later the 13th Dalai Lama would have done it too." CTA President Dr. Lobsang Sangay has been rallying support for Tibet in the US capital by calling on members of Congress and Senate in Washington, D.C. He met with Senator Patrick Leahy, Congressman Peter Roskam and David Price, and Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, all of who have been longtime supporters of Tibet and the staunchest champions for human rights on the Hill. President Dr. Sangay expressed deep appreciation and genuine gratefulness for their support. He also engaged in a roundtable conversation with 11 Senate and House staffers discussing the United States' policies towards China, opportunities to advance the Tibet issue through legislative means, and strategies to further strengthen political advocacy for Tibet. Continuing his Hill advocacy, President Sangay met with Reva Price, leader Nancy Pelosi's legislative aide, to identify specific ways in which the House of Representatives can use its influence and reach to secure civil and political rights for Tibetans inside Tibet. President Dr. Sangay also met with various high-level representatives of the US administrations and bureaus of the US State Departments. A resolution to honor the life, accomplishments and legacy of late Lodi Gyaltsen Gyari was introduced by Senator Dianne Feinstein from the state of California on 13th November and was co-sponsored by Mr. Menendez. The resolution strongly supports a political solution for Tibet that ultimately satisfies the legitimate grievances and aspirations of the Tibetan people, a cause to which Lodi Gyari devoted his entire life. The resolution commended the achievements of late Lodi Gyari in building an international coalition of support for Tibet that recognizes the imperative to preserve the distinct culture and religious traditions of Tibet, and that the Tibetan people are entitled to their own identity and dignity and to genuine autonomy within the People's Republic of China that fully preserves the rights and dignity of the Tibetan people. CTA President Dr. Lobsang Sangay attended the 3-day annual Halifax International Security Forum held in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada from 16 to 18 November 2018. This year, it focused on China and Russia's challenge to the liberal democratic values underpinning the international order. The forum convenes some of the world's most influential leaders to address the most pressing global security challenges and strengthen strategic cooperations among democracies. Speaking at the forum, Dr. Sangay talked about democracy under stress due to increasing Chinese influence around the world, including the co-opting of ruling elites. Pointing out that China has built a 16+ alliance in Central and Eastern Europe, which does not speak for democracy or human rights, he said, the claim seems to be that NATO is for democracy and human rights. But the NATO alliance is divided and there is a new narrative being developed, which many countries are buying, and that is that China is a leader in clean energy, climate change, technology and globalization.
Now this new narrative is being developed and many are buying it. That is, China is the leader of clean energy, of climate change, of technology, including globalization. And this is being backed by latest Pew Research Center survey, where 30 years ago, China had less than 20% favorable view. Now it's 49% favorable and 42% unfavorable. Now, again, in that same survey, it shows that 70% of the people in 25 countries believe that China is doing more in the world affairs than America, Russia, America, or Germany. Even in Canada, 42% think that Xi Jinping is playing a bigger role in global affairs than any democratic countries. So how do you counter that narrative, and how do you first unite the NATO alliance and make them speak for democratic values and human rights?
On 19th November, CTA President Dr. Lobsang Sangay addressed the students at University of Toronto as well. The twin landslide and flooding incidents in Jomda and Peiyu in Chamdo, Eastern Tibet in October 2018 has forced more than 30,000 people to evacuate and relocate to nearby areas. The incessant flooding has affected many villages, townships and counties in eastern parts of Tibet located along the Drichu River. Zamla Temba Genzen, an environmental research fellow at the Tibet Policy Institute, Central Tibetan Administration, called for a thorough and transparent scientific investigation into the real cause or the factors that could have led to the two major landslides in the Bholo township in Jomda and Peiyu regions of eastern Tibet. He further added that the unchecked development and dam construction projects and the excessive mining in the area may have led to the incessant flooding and landslides.
We are extremely disappointed at the slow response to the recent landslide in Jomda that blocked Drichu on 3rd November 2018. A proper response mechanism should be set up across Tibet to swiftly respond to any natural disasters in the future. A review on the mode of development activities across Tibet should also be carried out. The hundreds of thousands of Tibetans temporarily displaced because of the landslide should be given utmost support to quickly recover and rebuild their homes. A thorough and transparent scientific investigation into the actual cause of the landslide must be carried out.
That's all for this week. Have a great weekend.